Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. At the beginning, I swallow the 7 limits of heaven and earth, and I am a sword demon. Crossing the world of comprehensive martial arts. Lin Jue became an ordinary gang member who had just entered the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower, but he was sent to defend it to the death and was in danger. Fortunately, we have awakened the system of the martial arts of the heavens. As long as you achieve special achievements, you can receive various special rewards. Swallowing the 7 limits of heaven and destroying the earth, slaying heaven and pulling sword technique, for Directions Qilin Xuangong, Wild Dragon 8/ technique, if that's me /so. Lin Jue bravely drew his sword and stood up. How can a great man remain depressed for a long time? Whether it was Emperor Huizong Zhao Ji, the treacherous Prime Minister Cai Jing, or the great demon god Yuan 13 limits, they were all beheaded by him with a single sword. Zhuge Zhengme. He is the most talented swordsman I have ever seen. Xiong Ba. If I could replace Nie Feng with Lin Jue, would my world worry about not achieving hegemony? Ling Donglai. In this world, only Lin Jue can discuss martial arts with me. Guan Qi. As long as Lin Jue is willing to call me father.in.law, I can marry Lei Chun to him. Lin Jue fought against the 9 provinces with one sword. Suddenly turning around, he realized that he was already invincible, accompanied by countless beauties. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Travel. People are in the Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Night. Late at night. A bright moon is like a hook. The silver moonlight falls, enveloping the earth like thin gauze sand in a manner in the capital city of Bian during the Song dynasty. The sound of grinding the knife slowly rang out. Under the moonlight, a burly figure with a bare back gradually appeared, and the muscles on his back continued to contract with his movements. Shua, the big knife slashed over the grinding stone, its sharp edge emitting a faint cold light under the moonlight. A cold and sharp gaze reflected on the blade, full of killing intent. Woo, the wind is howling. A thick cloud blew in, obscuring the moonlight and plunging the earth into darkness. Even the stars in the sky seemed to dim. In the pitch-black night, those cold and piercing eyes are still incredibly bright. His name is Lin Jue, he is a traveler. Suddenly waking up overnight, I arrived at this world. Buzz, the big knife flickered with cold light, creating a patch of sparks on the ground. Lin Jue stood leaning on a knife, while the eagle looked at the wolf and looked towards a tall building not far away. The tall building stands tall in the darkness, like a giant overlooking the earth. Lin Jue's eyes flickered. He knows this tall building, named Nie Feng Shiyu. And he is just an ordinary gang member who has just joined the Nie Feng Shiyu Tower. As a traveler, Lin Jue knows that this Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower is from the 4 famous Catchers series. He originally thought he had traveled to the Song dynasty, but through investigation, he found out that this was very different from what he believed to be the world of martial arts. This world is dominated by numerous dynasties. De Qin, De Sui, De Tang, De Song, Meng Yuan, De Ming, Li Yang. He is in the Great Song dynasty. And the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower is one of the top forces in the Song dynasty's martial arts world. Landlord Su Meng's pillow stands proudly at the top level of the martial arts world of the Great Song dynasty, relying on the technique of the Twilight Rain Red Sleeves knife. It's already famous all over the world. But the world is vast and diverse. Even so, there are several top powers in this Bianjing city that are no weaker than the Golden Wind and Rain Tower. The 6 gates, led by Zhuge Zhengme and led by the 4 great captors, as an official organization, have a profound foundation and are far stronger than the power of the martial arts world. Its leader Zhuge Zhengme, also known as Zhuge Shenhou, is an extremely terrifying figure in both the martial arts world and the court. In the court, he is the 6'5" divine marquis, personally conferred by the emperor, and he holds the pacification formula, which can be executed first and reported later. In the martial arts world, just the 4 disciples under him who are ruthless, cold-blooded, iron-handed, and chasing after life have already made the martial arts world tremble with fear. In addition to the 6 gates, in the city of Bianjing, there are also 6.5 halls that have always been enemies of the Golden Wind and Rain Tower, as well as the 7th largest group in the world and the Yuqiao group in the imperial palace that Cai Jing has taken over, all of which have terrifying strength. And this is just the Song dynasty's martial arts world. Around the Great Song dynasty, there were many powerful countries, including the Ming dynasty and the Mongol Yuan dynasty nearby, and even further away, the Sui and Tang dynasties, the Qin dynasty, and Liang and other imperial dynasties coexisting. The imperial power of various countries may differ slightly from the history known to Lin Jue, but there is still a significant difference. Just outside the imperial court, there are many other martial arts forces that cannot be underestimated. Such as Western Demon Cult, Water Moon Cave, Moving Flower Palace, World Society, as well as the Ming religion of the Mongol Yuan dynasty. Their strength and heritage are extremely terrifying. In the strongest Qin dynasty, there are now hundreds of schools of thought, including Confucianism, Moism, Yin-Yang school, and the Taoist school of heaven and man, with considerable strength. The greatest power comes from the imperial court, and it is a trap led by Zhao Gao, the commander of the Zhongche prefecture. When it comes to the power of the martial arts world, the most dazzling one is the Ming dynasty. Lu Xiaofeng, Shimen Chui Xue, Li Xuanhuan. Everyone is already famous all over the world. The strongest among them is the supreme master who ordered the East to come. He learned swordsmanship at the age of 10, at the age of 15, and achieved great success at the age of 30, gaining a close insight into the way of heaven and man. In the universe, there is no one who can compete with it. This is a world full of flowers, incredibly exciting, but also extremely dangerous. Since ancient times, martial arts have been used by heroes to break the ban, and it is not uncommon for martial arts forces to kill and steal goods. The lives of ordinary people are like grass, and they are uncertain. Although Lin Jue is now under the jurisdiction of Jinfeng Shiyu Tower, he is just an ordinary gang member. Not to mention martial arts, even the techniques of sharpening knives were just learned this afternoon. Nowadays, Su Mengzhen, the owner of Jinfeng Shiyu building, is unable to leave due to an old injury, greatly reducing his strength. At present, Bai Choufei, the second in charge, is in charge of the building. According to Lin Jue's understanding, this person is ruthless and ambitious. Let him be the master of the family, he will definitely expand vigorously. It seems that there has been a lot of fighting lately. Lin Jue's eyes flickered. He understood that there would probably be many battles ahead for the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower. And in such a world dominated by experts, he is like cannon fodder, and even a slight mistake can lead to fatal consequences. So what? Lin Jue's mouth slowly curled up, and an excited light shone in his eyes. In his past life, he was just an ordinary person, tired of ordinary life, and extremely yearned for the wonderful and diverse world in martial art stories. Now in this world, even though there are many dangers, he is not afraid at all. Woo, the wind sobs. The clouds gradually dispersed, and a ray of moonlight shone on the tall building in front of me. Lin Jue's sharp gaze was fixed on this towering and massive Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower. Lin Jue clenched the handle of the knife, and the knife in his hand trembled slightly. It seemed that he couldn't help but want to meet the heroes of the world for a while and step onto the top of martial arts. At this moment, a mechanical sound suddenly rang out in his mind. Ding dong, host locked. The Zhutian martial arts system has been successfully bound. System. Lin Jue's eyes lit up. Shoo. With a flash of light, a crystal blue panel appeared in front of him that only he could see. Zhutian martial arts system. To achieve special achievements, you can receive rewards, including martial arts from various heavens and realms, as well as techniques, and paths. The heavens and all realms. Lin Jue touched his chin. The coverage of the world of all heavens and all realms is very broad, which means that the range of generals he can obtain is far beyond the comprehensive martial arts world he is in. He slid his fingers and the system panel in front of him suddenly popped up with a more detailed introduction. Lin Jue's gaze quickly passed by, confirming his conjecture. Indeed, that's true. Martial arts. Gaowu is considered a martial arts school, and there is also a martial arts school in the fantasy world. The system provides detailed information, allowing you to obtain martial arts from various heavens and realms, as well as techniques, and paths. If we can obtain the otherworldly freedom method of the Emperor of the Wild. He transformed into a great Dharma, but the ultimate skill of the Emperor of Wilderness is the supreme secret technique. Can change all things, transform into freedom, transform into time, transform into the powerful of the world, and endlessly replicate famous figures from history to appear in battle. With the power of one person, one can defeat a world. Lin Jue's gaze was fanatical. As a 7-foot man, who has no dream of dominating the world. Now that we have this system of heavenly martial arts, the vastness of the world belongs entirely to me. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for achieving a special achievement and receiving a reward. Chapter 2. The 7 Deadlines of Swallowing Heaven and Extinguishing Earth. The Heavenly Way Golden List is now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Surprisingly, it's it. Seeing the reward, Lin Jue was slightly delighted. In front of him hung a glowing martial arts secret book called The 7 Limits of Swallowing Heaven and Extinguishing Earth. This is a martial arts technique from Huang Yulong's Hong Kong comic series. Rather than being a martial arts secret, it is actually more like a divine skill. This method originated from ancient times. It was Qi Yu who witnessed the powerful destructive power of natural disasters, and thus was inspired to create a set of earth-shattering swordsmanship. Named the 7 Limits. This number of swords is divided into 7 types, namely: swallowing the sky, extinguishing the earth, blazing fire, hail, storm, landslide, and breaking the sea. Every move is as terrifying as a natural disaster. With this set of swordsmanship, Qi Yu's skills dominate the gods in the divine realm, invincible, and he becomes the leader of the supreme martial arts gods. And what Lin Jue obtained was the 7th move in this cultivation technique. Breaking the sea. Not bad. Lin Jue is quite satisfied with this skill. He extended his hand and the suspended technique instantly transformed into a stream of light and penetrated into his heavenly spirit. The majestic knowledge washed through Lin Jue's mind, causing some swelling. In no time, this obscure technique was all imprinted deep in his mind. Although he did not directly comprehend or impart any internal strength or sword intent to him, the essentials and related knowledge of each knife technique were clearly recorded. Lin Jue only needs to practice according to the recorded techniques, and will not take any detours, and his strength will also improve rapidly. At the moment, time was tight, and he didn't delay any time. He immediately put on a show in the yard and started practicing. Shwa because there is no foundation, Lin Jue needs to start practicing basic knife techniques, which are simple swings and slashes, without showing any tricks. It's crooked and curly, completely beginner-free, and looks like a wild roadster's crop handle. But thanks to the detailed knowledge about breaking the sea in his mind, Lin Jue quickly grasped the essentials and became more proficient in his movements. When he swung the knife technique 10 times, it was still quite awkward. But after training 100 times, he was already very proficient, with every move being very sharp and fierce, like a swordsman who has been wandering in the martial arts world for many years. After waving his sword technique 500 times, the blade swept over and even brought out Dao Gang Qi, and there was a faint sound of breaking the wind. Lin Jue was not at all tired, his movements became faster and faster, and his swordsmanship became more and more fierce and swift. With the improvement of his swordsmanship, a unique momentum formed faintly all over his body. Lin Jue's gaze was resolute, and every blade he swung was incredibly brave, without any hesitation or leaving any room for himself. His moves only include attack, not defense. Gradually, there seemed to be an opponent in front of Lin Jue, fighting him. The enemy's moves were fierce and vicious, and they went straight to the vital point, but Lin Jue was not afraid at all. He has only one purpose, which is to kill the enemy. Ha! Blade light breaks through the air. The swift sword gang seemed to paint a mysterious picture under the dark night. The moonlight shines brightly. In the courtyard, there was only one figure holding a long sword, constantly tossing and moving. The long sword waved like the wind, and Lin Jue's clothes were also soaked with sweat. Sweat was steaming, and under the moonlight, a colorful tiger was faintly formed. Buzz, the long sword moves, and the blade wind becomes increasingly fierce and fierce. It's like a tiger howling in the mountains and forests. Wow! When Lin Jue practiced the knife technique 1,000 times, the area where the blade passed seemed to be flowing with water. The originally hard long sword seems to have become much softer, as if the blade cuts across the water and ripples. Lin Jue was completely immersed in it, completely unaware of exhaustion. Unconsciously, it had already reached the moment when the sky was slightly bright. He has practiced this knife technique thousands of times, and his originally clumsy movements are now incredibly proficient. The long sword dance seems to have turbulent waves and waves. Although it may not be as great as a tsunami tearing apart the heavens and earth, it can still trigger the power of a stream. According to the division of martial arts strength, being able to achieve this level is already considered a skilled player. Ha! Lin Jue breathed a sigh of relief. Although he didn't rest all night, he didn't feel tired at all and still felt refreshed. His eyes were bright and lively, and a strong aura bloomed all over his body. After thousands of exercises that night, he had also gained some self-protection power. At least it's enough to establish a foothold in the martial arts world. Lin Jue had a rough assessment of his own strength. Now he has only been practicing his swordsmanship for a day, far from reaching a perfect level, and can only be considered as just getting started. If you have the opportunity, you still need to find an internal mental skill to practice first. The sea-breaking skill obtained by Lin Jue is just a sword technique. To fully unleash its power, internal power support is indispensable. And internal strength is exactly what he lacks the most now. Whether he can become a first-class expert is crucial. As Lin Jue watched the dawn gradually rise on the horizon, he wiped the sweat off his forehead and prepared to return to his residence before making any plans. But as soon as he took a step, he stopped. I saw a sudden surge of golden light in the slightly bright sky. That dazzling and piercing person can hardly open their eyes, even surpassing the radiance of the sun. A vast aura suddenly surged in, causing a great shock to the heart and mind. Lin Jue immediately looked back, but saw a golden light shining brightly in the sky, with huge golden shadows forming scrolls. The scrolls unfolded, and the golden light flickered on them, converging into several lines of text. At the end of winter, on a day of slight coldness, Yen 13 met Xiaofeng at the foot of Cuiyin Peak and fought on Green Water Lake. This is the 15th sword of the night stealing life, which was born. It is the ultimate killing of heaven and earth, and its sword energy is abundant. Yen 13 committed suicide, and Xiaofeng cut off his fingers. Changes in the list of places ranked second. Xiaofeng. Stealing the heavens and changing the sun, the emperor in the sword. What is this thing? Seeing the words in the sky, Lin Jue was quite surprised. Of course he knows Yen 13. This person's martial arts are extremely terrifying. At the age of 10, he practiced swordsmanship and learned 13 swordsmanship techniques. At the age of 20, he became familiar with the World Swordsmanship Manual, and it was difficult to encounter opponents in the martial arts world. Afterwards, he also comprehended the even more powerful deadly 14 swords, and on the basis of the 14th sword, he also comprehended the 15 swords that were capable of destroying heaven and earth. Lin Jue knows all these things. But what exactly are these golden scrolls in the sky? Lin Jue pondered silently. At this moment, a voice came from behind. This is the list of heroes. Once you step into the martial arts world, you can see it. Lin Jue looked back and saw a middle-aged man with a slender body and a black mole on his forehead walking out. There was a hint of confusion in his gaze, as he had never seen this person before. The middle-aged man smiled slightly and said, "I'm Yang Buer." Lin Jue. Yang Buer nodded slightly and then looked up at the golden list in the sky. You just stepped into the martial arts world and didn't know anything about it. The hero list is something that the heavenly Tao observes the heroes of the world. Whenever there is a change in the characters on the hero list, the heavenly Tao will release a record to let the people in the martial arts world know, and it can be seen anywhere. Yang Buer smiled and asked, "Do you know the realm of martial arts?" Lin Jue nodded. When joining the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower, the leader's steward had already told them that there are 6 levels of martial arts. Beginner level is 3rd rate, and upward level is 2nd rate and 1st class. Above 1st class experts, there is innate talent, and above innate talent, there are masters and great masters. As for the realm of the Grand Master, it is currently unknown, and the steward has not mentioned it. However, it's still too far away from Lin Jue, so I'm not in a hurry to know. Yang Buer walked with his hands behind his back in the courtyard and slowly said, "The hero list is divided into the sky list, the earth list, and the person list. Among them, the heavenly list is full of great masters. And the Di Bang is a master-level expert. As for the people's list, also known as the Tingyuan list, it judges young people with outstanding potential in the martial arts world." Yang Buer pointed to the font still shimmering with gold in the sky and said, "Xia Xiaofeng and Yen 13 were originally experts in the earth ranking 9th and 10th respectively, while Yen 13 was ranked 10th. Therefore, he has always been eager to surpass Xia Xiaofeng and go further." Speaking, Yang Buer sighed. Unexpectedly, after this battle, Yen 13 committed suicide, and Xia Xiaofeng jumped to 2nd place on the ground list. He looked at the golden list in the sky, with a hint of contemplation in his eyes, as if he had some longing. I don't know what kind of power that deadly 15th sword really has. Lin Jue did not answer. He knew that although Yen 13 died, his swordsmanship had not been lost. Xia Xiaofeng was able to rise directly from the 9th place on the list to the 2nd place, so he must have already obtained the lifelong unique skill of Yen 13. Lin Jue slowly clenched the long sword in his hand, his wariness boiling in his eyes. "The sword of hell, which claims to destroy heaven and earth, will one day be personally tasted with the sword in my hand." Chapter 3. Bitter water spreading meat grinder, am I dead sure? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Top floor of Jin Feng Shiyu Building. Lubaixuan. This floor, also known as the White Tower, is the most important location of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower, hiding countless confidential information. Originally the place where Su Mengzhen was lying with illness, it has now become the residence of Bai Choufei. And the landlord Su Mengzhen, now also missing in the White Pavilion, a young man dressed in a white robe and fox fur sat quietly, looking at the list of heroes in the sky with deep eyebrows and eyes. Xia Xiaofeng. Suddenly knocking on the door sounded. "Master, I have something to report to you." The man raised his eyes slightly, and a fierce aura suddenly surged out. Even the books on the desk were flipping rapidly with surging energy. With a strong aura, he appears to be a top-notch expert above birth. He is the nominal deputy owner and actual controller of the current Jin Feng Shiyu Lu. Bai Choufei. His martial arts skills are extremely advanced, and he is known for his 24 solar terms that shock the gods and name the world. His actions were radical, fierce and ruthless, and he had quickly accumulated enough strength to compete with the deputy landlord Su Mengzhen. Nowadays, the owner Su Mengzhen is missing, and Bai Choufei is nominally acting as the agent of Jin Feng Shiyu Lu, which many people are not convinced of. But he used thunderous tactics to make those people shut their mouths forever. Squeak, the door opens. A burly strong man walked in, feeling the terrifying aura on Bai Choufei's body, and sweat was already visible on his temples. Bai Choufei turned around and whispered, "What's up?" The strong man knelt down near and presented a stack of books. "The information of the newly joined members has been prepared properly, and I am here to hand it over to the landlord for review." The strong man showed great respect and lowered his head, afraid to lift it up. Being able to reach this level, he himself is also a skilled expert with impressive strength and is notorious in the martial arts world. But in the face of Bai Choufei, all his ferocity was gone, trembling like a quail. Bai Choufei slowly took over the roster, speechless for a while. Now that the Jin Feng Shiyu building has been cleaned up by him, it is necessary to recruit troops and horses for future actions. Even for low-level subordinates, the more, the better. Bai Choufei flipped through it casually. After a moment, he put down the information and spoke calmly, "Send it to the Kushui shop." Bitter water shop. The strong man suddenly stood in awe. Kushupu is the dividing line between the Jin Feng Shiyu Tower and the Lufen Ban Tang in the capital city of Bian, extremely dangerous. Even Su Mengzhen had been ambushed and poisoned at Kushupu, resulting in losing one leg. At this moment, they were in deep water and hot water with Lufen Bantang. As the landlord Su Mengzhen was seriously injured and retreated, Lufen Bantang also became more and more rampant, constantly provoking disputes and hoping to swallow more land of Jin Feng Shiyu building in one go. It can be said that the bitter water shop at this time is like a sea of swords and flames, with numerous crises. Bai Choufei's move seems to have used these newly joined gang members as cannon fodder. Just as the strong man was pondering, he suddenly felt a sharp gaze taking him, and his body shook. He quickly retrieved the list and bowed back. "I am under your command." The rising sun rises high. The golden sunshine scattered, dispelling the coldness of the night, and the entire Bianjing city gradually woke up. From afar, you can also hear the sound of selling on the street, slowly becoming lively in the other courtyard. With young Boer's Kupu, Lin Jue also gained a deeper understanding of the prosperity and splendor of this martial arts world. The Golden List presents the world's top experts, and anyone who can make it to the Golden List has already gained worldwide fame. Xie Xiaofeng, as the third young master of the Divine Sword Villa, has been exceptionally talented since childhood. He learned swordsmanship at the age of 5 and deciphered sword manuals at the age of 6. In his teens, he defeated the first swordsman of the Huashan sect, the dragon swordsman Hua Shaokuan. He also made the Xinjian villa famous and was temporarily crowned as the sword god. He also divided the obscure and difficult to understand Xie family sword technique into 2 parts, holding the sword in his left hand, and increased the original 70.2 sword techniques to 140.4. Changes are unpredictable. Even Yen 13, who is invincible in the martial arts world, regards him as his lifelong enemy. But even the sword god Xie Xiaofeng, who is so famous throughout the world, surprisingly only ranks on the list. Even after defeating Yen 13 and obtaining his lifelong martial arts secrets, he only ranked 2nd on the land list. This is undoubtedly fascinating. Such a strong person only ranks 2nd, so who should be the first? What kind of amazing existence is it to be on a higher level of the heavenly list? Lin Jue couldn't help but be stunned. After finishing these words, Yang Buer also nodded slightly and said, "You just joined the gang today. It's better to rest earlier. Please note that you may have to leave tomorrow." Lin Jue frowned and said, "What does that mean?" Yang Buer did not directly dispel his doubts, but shook his head and said, "You will know then." As he spoke, he turned his head and walked away. After just 2 steps, he stopped and looked back and instructed, "Remember to live." Watching Yang Buer leave, Lin Jue didn't think much. This world is inherently dangerous. Without strength, even if one is not in the martial arts world, it is not easy to survive. Only with one's own strength can one run rampant without fear. Chang. The long sword is unsheathed. Lin Jue originally planned to go back and rest, but now that he knew there might be danger tomorrow, he once again pondered the technique of breaking the sea. Water droplets can pierce through stones. Lin Jue practiced his swordsmanship over and over again, and with each use, he gained a deeper understanding of the technique of breaking the sea. 1,000 times, 5,000 times, 10,000 times Lin Jue didn't know how many times he had practiced, and all his energy was focused on the long sword in front of him. He had already fallen into forgetfulness, as if he was the sword, and the sword was him. The sun rises high and gradually sets westward. Moonlight scattered in the courtyard, with only one figure constantly dancing a long sword. The sun rises and sets, the moon rises and falls. By the time Lin Jue regained his senses, it was already the evening of the next day. He indeed received the news that he would go to the Qushui shop in Bianjing City with other newly joined gang members. Without any delay, Lin Jue casually changed into dry clothes and set off with the long sword that had accompanied him in practicing swordsmanship tens of thousands of times. Although the bitter water shop at this time was dangerous, it was exactly what he wanted. Lin Jue is also eager to test his current strength. After all, only actual combat is the fastest way to improve strength. Step out the door. The wide streets come into view. Lin Jue, along with many newly joined members of the gang, marched towards Qushui under the guidance of the steward. Along the way, there are numerous shops, and on both sides, there are also many vendors selling. People wearing different clothes wander on the bustling streets, exuding a sense of peace. This is Bianjing. Lin Jue couldn't help but sigh. Although the power of the great Song dynasty was weak, due to its emphasis on literature over martial arts, it was the wealthiest among the major dynasties. The bustling city of Bianjing is becoming increasingly enchanting, causing many new gang members to be dazzled. Lin Jue also looked around at this bustling city. Boom. 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 A series of explosive sounds suddenly rang out. Chapter 4. A long knife in hand, kill to stop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Run. Run quickly. The violent explosion suddenly sounded, causing chaos in the once bustling streets. Shops closed their doors one after another, and the walking people ran around in panic. The street, which was still bustling just now, instantly became unpopular, as if it had fallen into a dead silence. Only a building along the street is still burning fiercely, silently recounting everything that happened just now. It's a thunderbolt fire in a 6.5 hall. Someone suddenly shouted. Liuhe Bantang is closely related to Jiangnan Thunderbolt Hall, and the founder of Liuhe Bantang, Lei Chun, is also a master of Jiangnan Thunderbolt Hall. This thunderbolt fire is indeed a 6.5-point method. During this period, many members of the Jin Feng Shiyu Tower have fallen on this thunderous fire. Hurry up. The consul quickly wanted to remind everyone. Before he could finish speaking, he heard a shout of killing shattering the world. It was the 6.5 people who came out to kill. Kill them. A group of 6.5 martial arts generals came over, targeting the gang members who had just joined the Golden Wind and Rain Tower. Not good. Led Lin Jue and others to transfer to Consul Qushui, feeling anxious and eager to set out for rescue. Suddenly whoosh, 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 the sound of breaking through the air echoed one after another, and the consul's warning sounded. He quickly waved his long sword. Dang! 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 Accompanied by the sound of a clash of gold and iron, hidden weapons were shot down one by one, and the consul's face darkened. In front of him, a master from the 6.5 hall suddenly attacked and entangled him. He intended to push it back, but couldn't withdraw for a moment. At this moment, the remaining light caught sight of 4 figures rushing towards their subordinates. Damn it! The consul gritted his teeth secretly, feeling hopeless. Seeing those 4 people, he knew that this group of newcomers was doomed. He recognized the identities of these 4 people, who were the notorious Yellow River 4 villains in the martial arts world. These 4 people are skilled in using swordsmanship, killing without calculation. They are fierce and cunning, and have committed numerous murders in the northwest. They can easily wipe out people from all over their homes, and they are quite brutal. Relying on their fierce swordsmanship, they fled all the way, even the local courts couldn't take them down. Since they were recruited by the 6.5 Hall, they have become even more ferocious with their support, and recently they have killed several experts in the Golden Wind and Rain Tower. Not to mention the newly joined gang members. Even if the consul faces these murderers himself, he is likely to die 10-0. The consul exclaimed with a chill in his heart, "I've fallen." On the street. The 4 evil ones of the Yellow River crossed over the consul and headed towards the newly arrived gang members at the Nie Feng Shiyu Tower. The third refining soul knife looked at the crowd who were already frightened and had a look of excitement and bloodthirsty. They are all little lambs, so fresh. The soul refining blade is a middle-aged man who is thin and gloomy. Its strength is not the strongest among the 4 evil forces of the Yellow River, but it is the most ruthless and vicious. After every murder, I have to knock my head and suck my marrow, becoming addicted to brain food. It is also a long-term preference for eating human brains, making others not like humans or ghosts. The boss's soul saber glanced at him and said discontentedly, "Hurry up and kill me. The people from the Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower are coming soon." Yes. Everyone took orders and immediately dispersed in all directions. The 4 fierce warriors of the Yellow River are skilled in wielding their swords, each with their own unique technique, yet they are all extremely fierce and powerful. The 4th elder's soul-slaying saber remained silent. He was the first to break into the crowd, wielding his double swords in a gust of wind, instantly tearing apart the chest of a gang member. Blood spurt. Blood splattered onto the face of the third person's soul-refining knife, causing his pale face to burst into an excited and sickly smile. With a strange smile, he waved a curved knife and killed the crowd. Kill! Kill! The gang members of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower had already drawn their swords when the explosion sounded. At this moment, seeing the 4 of them as fierce as ghosts, surpassing humans, was already terrifying. Fear to the extreme is anger. Everyone immediately waved their long knives and headed towards the 4 people to kill. Hee, poor little lamb. The third person licked his lips with his soul-refining knife, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. He easily dodged the attack of the crowd and casually wielded his knife to kill, just like walking leisurely in the courtyard. Pour it down, he kicked one of the gang members down with a casual kick, and then a curved knife swept over them, wiping their necks in an instant. Dare you! Not far away, the consul of Nie Feng Shiyu Tower was extremely angry when he saw the gang members die tragically. The 4 evil forces of the Yellow River have cruel means, and there is no possibility of survival if they are entangled with them. I'll take you to see them in a little while. The warrior in the 6.5 Hall had his mouth curled up, and his spear was dancing in the wind, forcing the consul to have no time for him to attend. Damn it! The consul gritted his teeth secretly, a hint of despair filling his heart. The deployment of so many experts in the 6.5 Hall this time is clearly a deliberate ambush. These new members of the gang will definitely die without any life. At the corner of the street. The gang members of Nie Feng Shiyu Lu have been killed to the death. Looking at the corpses of their companions scattered on the ground, their faces were filled with fear and despair. The 4 monsters of the Yellow River each have strange methods, and they have no hope of winning or even escaping. Only one person is an exception. Lin Jue's long sword was already unsheathed, and he looked quietly at the fierce 4 people. Not only was there no fear, but there was even a hint of excitement in his eyes. His hands were trembling slightly, his blade humming, and he was already impatient. Everyone wanted to escape, but Lin Jue crossed over them, not retreating but advancing, and launched an attack. The third person's soul-refining knife's crimson gaze suddenly turned to see a figure holding a long sword rushing towards him. Not good. The third person's soul refining knife sensed something was amiss. He has been wandering the martial arts world for many years, and at a glance, he realizes that Lin Jue is not a newcomer. Everyone else is a panicked lamb, while Lin Jue is more like a bad wolf. Schwa knife light flashing. The third person's soul refining blade was about to raise the blade to block, but he only felt a flash in front of him. He lowered his head in disbelief and watched as a ferocious wound had already been cut open in his chest. You. Puff the third refining soul knife couldn't even say a word, and a blood mist burst out on his chest, killing him in an instant. The third one. The other three villains were shocked to see the soul refining knife die instantly. Although the soul refining blade is not the strongest among the four of them, it is by no means the weakest. At this moment it was killed with a single blow. How could they not be surprised? Kill him first. With the command of the boss's soul saber, the three of them immediately surrounded and killed each other. Lin Jue looked at the three people who had been killed, his mouth slightly curved, and he rushed over immediately. The other party is faster, his speed is faster. In an instant, both sides made contact and swung their swordsmanship tens of thousands of times at lightning speed, only to see a flash of sword light. The expressions of the three were full of shock, but they could no longer say a word. Blood flowed from their mouths and a ferocious knife cut through their necks. In the blink of an eye, the infamous four evil ones of the Yellow River died instantly. What? He actually killed the four culprits of the Yellow River. What kind of person is he? For a moment, everyone in the room was shocked, their eyes wide open and their faces full of disbelief. The numerous members of the 6.5 Hall also stopped and looked at Lin Jue standing proudly on the street, not daring to approach, as if seeing ghosts and gods. Step on it, step on it, step on it. The sound of dense footsteps suddenly came, knowing that reinforcements from the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower had arrived. The 6.5 Hall warrior, who was fighting with the leader, quickly withdrew and retreated. Withdraw. At 6.5, the crowd dared not continue to delay and quickly retreated. Until now, the consul of Jinfeng Shiyu Tower finally breathed a sigh of relief and engaged in a struggle. He thought that even he might have died here, but he didn't expect such a strange thing to happen. His gaze turned to Lin Jue, who stood with a sharp sword, filled with shock. Everyone around was also in a state of astonishment, almost unable to believe what had just happened. Under the gaze of everyone, Lin Jue remained calm and composed, throwing away the blood stains on the blade and silently retracting it. Lin Jue shook his head slowly, even feeling a bit regretful. I didn't expect those four people to appear fierce, but they were so unbearable that none of them were his all-in-one enemy, which made him unable to win. It's really weak. Ding dong, host kills the four evil ones of the Yellow River and achieves success. Chapter 5. Achievement Rewards. Sifang Xilei Xiangong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 7th floor of the Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower, leaving behind the White Pavilion. A beam of sunlight shone down the window, reflecting a fair-skinned and handsome face. At the table, Bai Choufei was reading official documents, his expression as if a little tired and faintly proud, like the clouds in the sky. Bang 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 bang, a knock on the door rang out. A strong man with a beard walked in cautiously, and it was the consul who took people to Kushupu today. He approached and bowed to report, "Master, those newcomers have already been sent to the Kushui shop." Upon hearing the consul's words, Bai Choufei did not react and only nodded slightly, "Please step back." The words had fallen, but the people in the room did not move. The consul still stood there, looking as if he had something to say. Bai Choufei lifted his head and frowned slightly, saying, "What else is there?" The consul's expression shook and he quickly respectfully said, "Report to the master that among the new recruits sent today, there is one person with excellent skills. We were ambushed by a 6.5 Hall ambush, but he alone easily killed the four culprits of the Yellow River. Master, this person has excellent martial arts skills. Look." The consul carefully lifted his head. But Bai Choufei's face showed no reaction, as he only saw the four evils of the Yellow River and did not take them seriously. His narrow and long eyes were still staring at the official document in front of him. The consul felt a bit anxious upon seeing the situation, gritted his teeth and boldly said, "Master, do you think we should call him back? Kushupu is now too dangerous, and he really doesn't want such a potential stock to die there." But Bai Choufei paid no attention and slowly shook his head, saying, "Since you've gone to the Kushui shop, let's stay." Can. The consul wanted to say something more, but when he met Bai Chao's piercing gaze, he suddenly felt like a sword in his throat, and cold sweat flowed down in an instant. "I'm leaving." Bitter water spreads. As the bustling city of Bianjing, it is now in chaos. Recently, the attack at 6.5 halls has been particularly fierce, with signs of being burned by flames everywhere on the streets. Although the bluestone road on the ground has been washed clean, some crimson blood can still be seen. At this moment, in the quiet and desolate room paved with bitter water, only a group of gang members from the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower gathered together, discussing one after another. "Did you hear that one of the newcomers who came today is very fierce? Be careful. Do you know about the four evils of the Yellow River?" I was killed by this newcomer, and it was a 1.1.1 battle. What? It's impossible, absolutely impossible. Suddenly, the discussion came to a sudden halt. The door was pushed open, and more than 10 gang members holding long knives stepped in. They were injured and looked tired, clearly having just experienced a battle. But among the crowd, there was a young man with a burly physique and a resolute face that caught the eye. Although they were wearing the same clothes and holding the same long knives, the young man stood out among the crowd like a chicken, standing out from the crowd. A gang member in the Kushui shop pointed at him and asked, "Is this the one named Lin Jue?" A person next to him nodded and was about to speak when he suddenly stopped. A cold gaze suddenly came over, causing everyone to be taken aback. The sword was not unsheathed, but its gaze was like the sharpest blade, hanging in everyone's hearts. The gang member who had previously asked the question trembled with fear and almost fell off the chair. He was glanced at by Lin Jue's gaze and immediately lowered his head in fear, afraid to look or speak any more. The whole room suddenly fell silent, completely silent. Until Lin Jue's footsteps gradually faded away, everyone breathed a long sigh of relief. The previously outspoken gang member wiped his temples with a cold sweat and said, "You truly deserve to be the fierce man who killed the four evil forces of the Yellow River. He is truly powerful." The rest of the crowd also nodded in agreement. "Yeah, just now when he looked at me, I was stiff all over and couldn't even move. Our bitter water shop finally has a master. No wonder he can kill the four evil ones of the Yellow River. He's like a fierce tiger." Lin Jue didn't care about how the others thought of him, so he followed the gang members to his residence. This is a small courtyard, where ordinary members of the gang could only sleep together in large bunks, but he was taken to a separate room. Although the room is far from luxurious, at least it is clean and tidy, and there are still wine and meat on the table, which is obviously not a standard that ordinary gang members can enjoy. "The steward has instructed you to stay in this room." The attitude of the gang members who were invited was respectful, and their expressions even showed some admiration. Lin Jue didn't say much. He knew that in this world of the jungle, this is the privilege of the strong. It's all about licking blood with the edge of the knife. Whoever has a big fist and a sharper knife can live better. "I'm leaving now. If you have anything, just give me your orders." The gang members saw that Lin Jue didn't want to say much and respectfully bowed their bodies, so they turned around and left. The door closed, and Lin Jue directly opened the system panel. After he killed the four culprits of the Yellow River before, the system prompted him, but he did not open it immediately. Host kills the four evil ones of the Yellow River, achieving success. Killing martial artists for the first time. Congratulations to the host for receiving a special reward. Lin Jue directly opened the system reward, and with a flash of light, a glowing martial arts secret book appeared in front of him. Xilei Xiangong. Lin Jue's face lit up with joy. Xilei Xiangong comes from the world of wind and clouds, representing the power of Lei Chun. It is a powerful and uncharged internal skill. In the world of wind and clouds, Shiman Ruoshui relies on this martial arts skill. In the water, he is like a swift lightning and a dragon in the water. If he can practice it to a great extent and open up the 7 damage meridians, it will be extremely useful. Not bad, I'm just missing an internal skill. It just happened to be here, and Xilei Xiangong is not too bad either. Lin Jue is quite satisfied with this internal skill. He now has a knife technique in his body, but no internal skill blessing. It's easy to deal with third-rate masters, but if he encounters a master with deep internal strength, he will inevitably suffer losses. Although this Xilei Xiangong is not the best choice, if one can practice it to a great extent, it is enough to become a first-class expert. In thought, the secret script of Xilei Xiangong in front of me also turned into a ray of light and penetrated into Lin Jue's eyebrows. The majestic knowledge instantly filled his mind, and Lin Jue crossed his knees and closed his eyes to consolidate his mind. In his body, an internal qi arises and begins to circulate in his body according to a specific path. Accompanied by breathing and swallowing, Lin Jue's entire body also exuded a faint and misty aura, as if the power of lightning was swirling around him. The dust around was also blown away by the surging atmosphere, and even mosquitoes were separated by an invisible air shield around Lin Jue's body. His aura became increasingly powerful, gradually adding a hint of sharpness. Not only does the aura of thunder and lightning linger around the body, but the whole person also begins to twist, as if separated by a layer of mist. Chapter 6. Nurturing Martial Arts Through War. Liuhe Qinglong appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time flies like a white horse, and in the blink of an eye, several months have passed. In the past few months, Lin Jue has been staying at the Qushui shop and does not socialize with people every day. If an invincible person invades, he will practice martial arts in the courtyard, and his skills will become more and more refined. The golden sunshine falls. In the courtyard, Lin Jue wielded a long sword and waved it like the wind. When practicing swordsmanship, he does not exert his internal strength, but relying solely on the swordsmanship itself, he produces waves of tiger roar and dragon chant. 2 young brothers who were specifically serving Lin Jue in the distance watched as he wielded his swordsmanship, their expressions full of admiration. In the past few months, Lin Jue has achieved remarkable fame through his own strength. He admires every aspect of the bitter water shop. Even the steward of Kushupu dedicated a courtyard for him to practice martial arts and arranged for several gang members to serve him. Mr. Lin's swordsmanship is indeed powerful. Even standing so far, I feel a tingling sensation on my scalp. Isn't it true? But have you noticed that Lin doesn't make as much noise when practicing swordsmanship now? Even the sound of the blade breaking through the air has decreased significantly. You know, a hammer. This is Mr. Lin's knife technique that has become even more sophisticated. The crowd was whispering. In the courtyard, Lin Jue's entire body and mind were placed on the knife in his hand. In the past few months, he has been practicing this sword technique every day and night, and has already swung it countless times, from clumsily performing its form at the beginning to now practicing its spirit. Although the momentum was not as grand as before, it became increasingly calm and composed. Every move and practice was like a beast lurking in the abyss, waiting for it. Once a move is made, it will be like a thunderous force. After waving it countless times, Lin Jue suddenly felt a sense of enlightenment and began to mobilize the energy of the dantian within his body. A surge of internal energy surged out of the dantian, following his movements and wandering through various meridians, making his swordsmanship even more fierce and fierce. His footsteps were also as fast as the wind, and he had even brought out remnants. There is a subtle aura of thunder and lightning lingering in every move. The cultivation of internal skills is much slower than that of external skills. After several months of cultivation, Lin Jue's Xilei Xiangong has also achieved initial success. Although there is not much internal power in the body, it is very pure. In terms of internal strength alone, we have already reached the pinnacle of second-rate experts. However, Lin Jue's advantage is not his internal strength, but his swordsmanship. With the support of the sea-breaking saber, his practical combat ability is extremely strong. If the enemy's internal strength is judged, there may only be a dead end. Over the past few months, conflicts of various sizes have occurred at Kushupu from time to time. The group of gang members who came with him has long since died, and there are also none left who came earlier than him. Today's Kushupu has long known how many generations of people have changed, but only one person has always stood firm. It's Lin Jue. Bitter waters spread perilously, and people say this is a dragon's pond and tiger's den. But Lin Jue was like a fierce tiger and dragon in this abyss. No matter what kind of enemy came to kill him, he could never be knocked down. Fortunately, thanks to the fierce attack of the 6.5 Hall, Lin Jue's martial arts advanced rapidly, and his sword techniques became even more fierce and terrifying. Although his position has not changed much, he has a high reputation in the Kushui shop and seems to be a substantive spokesperson. Even the steward of the Kushui shop shows great respect to him. With his fierce and unparalleled swordsmanship, the title of his Lin Jue has begun to spread in the martial arts world of Lufentang, and even in the capital city of Bian bitter water spreads outside. On the broad street, a middle-aged man in strong attire is walking towards the crowd waiting. Everyone around them carried knives and seemed to have martial arts skills, and their appearance was extremely fierce, but they all showed great respect to this middle-aged man. Therefore, among the 6 harmonies of Man and Green Dragon, Qi Wenlu is known for his unparalleled literary prowess. This person is a disciple of the 13 limitations of Ximen Yuan, and together with Lu Shi, Yan Shi, Gu Taisan, Zhao Huasi, and Yi Qiwu, they are known as the 6 harmony Qinglong. With a set of 6 harmony Qinglong formation, they can even draw with the famous 4 great captains. His master Yuan 13 limitations is also the junior brother of Zhuge Zhengme, the 6 or 5 divine marquises. His strength is immeasurable. Qi Wenlu, a disciple of the 13th limit of the Yuan dynasty, gained great fame in the martial arts world thanks to his mysterious and unpredictable, you-can't-see sword technique. What makes him even more well-known is not his identity, but rather that Qi Wenlu is a young leader ranked 108th on the Tingyuan list, with great potential. A group of people gathered around Qi Wenlu and walked towards Kushupa in a grand manner. Some people along the way also avoided them from afar, afraid of being involved. Obviously, these people have a bad reputation in Bianjing. Everyone stopped in front of the Kushui shop, and Qi Wenlu looked at the building in front of him. He then asked left and right, "Is this the Kushui shop of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain building?" A subordinate with a scar across his face respectfully said, "This place is exactly the Kushui shop." Qi Wenlu's rebellious spirit squeezed out a voice from his nose and said, "Go, call the master of the bitter water shop over. Mr. Kai has a destiny." After spreading the bitter water, in the courtyard, the sunlight shone through the tree tops, casting speckled shadows. Under the apricot tree, Lin Jue sat cross-legged. There was a long sword standing in front of him, and a sense of vastness lingered around him, his breath like an abyss, unfathomable. Lin Jue's clothes were already soaked with sweat, but as his internal energy moved, the sweat on his body gradually evaporated. The rising water vapor lingered above his head, faintly resembling the formation of a colorful tiger, with an extremely terrifying momentum. His internal strength has now reached the peak of second rate, and he is only one step away from a first-class expert. Lin Jue activated the Xilei Xiangong, and his pure internal power flowed along the meridians at a faster and faster speed. His breath became increasingly vast and unfathomable, as if he was about to break through that thin shackle. Mr. Lin is not doing well. Suddenly, a gang member rushed into the hospital. Lin Jue's eyes opened, and although he didn't say anything, his terrifying aura had already made people hesitant to approach. Under his terrifying aura, the gang members stopped a few yards away and lowered their heads cautiously, saying, "Lin, brother Zhang, he has been killed." This Zhang Gu is the current manager of Qushui's shop, who has always admired Lin Jue greatly and often refers to himself as his younger brother. Lin Jue and he can't be considered friends, but they do have some friendship. At this moment, hearing that this person had been killed, Lin Jue slowly stood up. He remained silent, but his aura was noticeably more fierce and terrifying. While the leaves fall, but in the moment they approach the forest, they seem to be covered by a dense knife net, turning into powder. Woo! The mockery howled, blowing large dark clouds that obscured the sky. Under the shadow, Lin Jue walked straight outside. He took a seemingly slow step down, but in the blink of an eye, he had already crossed several zhang. The messenger was just a daze, and Lin Jue was nowhere to be seen. He quickly chased out of the house. Mr. Lin is indeed even more terrifying. The gang members hurriedly chased after him, panting heavily and saying, "Lin, why don't you ask for any reason?" Lin Jue kept walking and didn't look back. Killing someone pays off, that's all. His tone was plain, as if he was just talking about eating and drinking water, so simple and calm. The messenger couldn't help but click his tongue. Looking at Lin Jue's soaring steps, there was a hint of reverence and longing in his expression. Is Cai Jing amazing in Chapter 7? Make it to the gold list. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bitter water spreads outside. Dark clouds enveloped the street. Blood gushed and flowed, and a corpse lay in front of the door, covered in numerous sword wounds. It was Zhang He, the protagonist of the bitter water shop. On the other side, a group of people with casual postures, high-toed and arrogant, one of them had a thin sword dripping blood in their hand, indicating that Zhang He had died in his hands. Lin Jue walked out the door and his eyes immediately froze when he saw the person coming. He's a master. His gaze was directly fixed on Qi Wenlu, who was holding a thin sword. This person had a fierce aura and deep internal strength, indicating that his martial arts were not bad. The gang members of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower around were angry and glared at the person across from them with gritted teeth. As Lin Jue walked out, he seemed to have found his backbone and quickly told him about the situation. "Lin, it's him. This person killed Brother Zhang. There's no reason at all. As soon as we met, he killed Brother Zhang without saying a word." Everyone was filled with righteous indignation and couldn't contain their anger. Listening to everyone talking, Lin Jue also understood the ins and outs of the matter. It turned out that the person in front of him was Qi Wenlu, a member of the Liuhe Qinglong, who was sent by Prime Minister Cai Jing. Zhang Hezhua is now the nominal leader of Qushupu, and can only go to greet him. As a result, Qi Wenlu felt that Zhang He was disrespectful to him and directly killed him. Everyone was furious, but due to this person's identity, they dared not resist. They stared at Qi Wenlu with red eyes, staring at him intently. Opposite. At the moment when Lin Jue appeared, Qi Wenlu's gaze also turned to him. Seeing Lin Jue's upright posture and extraordinary demeanor, exuding a heroic demeanor, I couldn't help but exclaim to myself, what a person of Yan and Zhao who sang passionately and elegantly. He nodded slightly and asked, "Are you Lin Jue?" During this period of time, Lin Jue's name had already spread in Qushupu, and many people in the rivers and lakes of Bianjing had heard of his name. Lin Jue looked over and his gaze remained calm. Qi Wenlu, with his hands on his back, sneered and said, "As per the Prime Minister's order, people in the water shop who suffer from hardship are not allowed to go out at will today. If it disturbs your Majesty's birthday, we will punish you severely." As the words fell, everyone at Qushupu remained motionless, and Lin Jue remained silent. Qi Wenlu felt dissatisfied and said coldly, "Why don't you kneel down and take the order?" Lin Jue calmly looked at him and slowly spoke, "Man, did you kill him?" Qi Wen's 6 lips curled up and said, "So what?" Lin Jue's hand was already placed on the handle of the knife at his waist, and his voice was calm and cold. "If you kill someone, you must pay for your life. Pay for it. Hee hee. Ha ha ha." The attendants around Qi Wenlu heard Lin Jue's words, as if they had heard some extremely interesting joke, and immediately let out a burst of ridicule. Qi Wenlu carried his hands on his back and sneered, "I don't know if the heavens and the earth are thick, let me pay for my life. Do you know that I am Cai Xiong's person?" Cai Jing was the prime minister of the current dynasty, holding a high position of power. There are many skilled subordinates under him, and even Wen Xuan, who is known as the 7th in the world, is also a lackey under his command. The reason why Lufentang can be so domineering in the Bianjing city is also due to the support of Cai Jing from behind. This time, Qi Wenlu asked Lin Jue to retreat from the bitter water shop, which is obviously also a means to help Lufentang deal with the Golden Wind and Rain Tower. Many people can understand this point. It may be clear to see, but it doesn't mean there can be any solution. Qi Wenlu is so arrogant because of his deep background. In his opinion, among the group of people in front of him, except for Lin Jue who can still catch his eye, the others are just a group of local chickens and worthless dogs, not worth mentioning. He looked at Lin Jue with his hands behind his back, not even holding his sword. In Qi Wenlu's view, even if he doesn't know martial arts, he can still walk horizontally in this Bianjing city with his support from behind. But this time, he miscalculated. Chang Lin Jue's long sword from the waist instantly unsheathed. The Xilei Xiangong is in operation, carrying pure internal power and bursts of lightning energy. The long sword in hand shines brightly with one slash, it was like flipping the river and the sea in an instant. The blade is vast, like a long river rushing down, rolling down with overwhelming force. "How dare you?" Qi Wenlu was greatly shocked. He didn't expect Lin Jue to really dare to attack him, so he quickly drew his sword and unsheathed it. But he was always slow. A master's move, one mistake is 1,000 miles away. As soon as Qi Wenlu drew his sword, a powerful and heavy sword fell instantly. Bang! With only a loud bang, Qi Wenlu was immediately knocked away by a blow, and a group of running dogs around him were also knocked to the ground, howling in sorrow. Puff Qi Wenlu's body flew backwards for more than 10 zhang, fiercely hitting the wall and spewing out a mouthful of blood. His sword in his hand has already broken, and his internal breath is disordered, with no strength left in his body. The running dogs around were extremely frightened. Someone trembled and said, he really dares to take action. Mr. Qi is the 108th expert on the list of people, and he can't even stop a single move. Step, step, step. Lin Jue moved his steps and walked slowly towards Qi Wenlu. Under the corner of the wall, Qi Wen's 6 corners of the mouth overflowed with blood, terrified. Watching Lin Jue walk step by step, his expression was cold and terrifying, like a devil walking in hell. Qi Wenlu's soul surged and he held up his broken sword in his hand, panicking, saying, "You can't kill me. I'm Cai Xiong's person. My master has a limit of 13 yuan. If you kill me, neither Cai Xiong nor master will let you go. You." Before he could finish speaking, a cold light flashed and Qi Wenlu's eyes widened instantly. Ha! Ha! His lips opened and closed, but he couldn't say a word, only blood and water kept gushing out of his mouth. He pressed his neck, but couldn't stop the gushing of blood. Puppet Qi Wenlu fell to the ground, his eyes gradually covered in ashes, with only extreme fear remaining on his face. He actually killed Lord Qi. A lackey dog exclaimed in surprise. But when Lin Jue's gaze came, he quickly closed his mouth and remained silent like a cicada. A group of minions and fangs who followed Qi Wenlu completely lost their previous arrogance. Looking at Lin Jue with a calm expression, it was like seeing an evil ghost. They couldn't believe that Qi Wenlu, who has always been rampant, was killed with just one knife. A member of the Jin Feng Shiyu Building's gang reminded him carefully, "Mr. Lin, he is Kai Xiang's person." Lin Jue didn't take it seriously and threw away the bloodstains on his long sword, saying calmly, "It's just a half-lake green, just a cut dog. Someone hang his body on the bitter water bed." Upon hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but tremble. Killing Qi Wenlu is not enough, but actually having his body hung high in public. Isn't this hitting Kai Xiang's face? Buzz, as soon as I finished speaking, I suddenly saw a golden light shining brightly in the sky. Lin Jue looked up and his expression changed. It turned out to be the list of heroes in this world. In early March, Lin Jue killed Qi Wenlu outside the Kushui shop. List changes. People's List 108, Lin Jue. Chapter 8 Bai Choufei. This little soldier is actually a coward. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The golden light is boundless. The vast list of people unfolded, and Lin Jue's name also appeared on the list. Replace Qi Wenlu and rank 108th. Hero list. Surprisingly, it's a list of heroes in this world. Lin replaced Qi Wenlu and made it to the list of people. Mr. Lin is mighty. In the sky, Lin Jue's name shines with golden light, dazzling and dazzling. Everyone was shocked and they saw him replace Qi Wenlu and make it to the list of people. The lackeys brought by Qi Wenlu were one by one anxious, afraid that Lin Jue might not kill them all and kill them all. These people were still very arrogant before a stick of incense. Now that Qi Wen died on June 1st, the fox, who pretended to be a tiger, has taken on its original form. It trembles in the corner and dare not even lift its head. And the people in the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower looked at Lin Jue with admiration, even admiration. There are many big shots, but those people are usually high and mighty. However, Lin Jue started with the gang members of Jin Feng Shiyu Lu, right beside them, watching him grow stronger, and the gang members were also proud. Mr. Lin has entered the list of people this time, he must be famous all over the world. What is the list of people? General Lin will come like the ground list, the sky list. Right. In the future, Mr. Lin will surely make a name for himself and become famous all over the world. The crowd was extremely excited, as if they were the ones who made it to the list and became famous all over the world. Lin Jue raised his head and gave a brief glance, without paying much attention, very indifferent. It's just a false name, he doesn't take it to heart. What he cares more about is something more practical. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing Qi Wenlu and making his debut on the leaderboard. The system's prompt sounded in his ear, and the corner of Lin Jue's mouth slowly curled up. After ordering everyone to hang Qi Wenlu's body as a warning, he turned around and left, returning to the backyard room Jin Feng Shiyu Lu. In front of the top window, Bai Choufei saw the golden light shining brightly and looked up. Kushui Pu. The hero list records the world's martial arts experts, with occasional changes. People who can make it to the hero list are by no means unknown in the martial arts world, but the name Lin Jue surprised Bai Choufei and made him feel very unfamiliar. On the side, the consul with a beard was reporting on the recent situation. Seeing the names in the sky, he immediately widened his eyes and was shocked. Seeing Bai Choufei's puzzled gaze, he quickly reported, "Master, Lin Jue was the person who was sent to Kushupu by my subordinate that day and killed the 4 evil ones of the Yellow River." Upon hearing this, Bai Choufei remained silent for a while. He had a slight movement in his expression, unsure of what he was thinking. After a moment, Bai Choufei suddenly said, "Take someone to the Kushui shop and investigate." Shenhou Mansion. A middle-aged man with extraordinary demeanor is looking up at the sky. He is the owner of this divine marquis mansion. Today, the emperor personally confers the title of divine marquis, and Zhuge Zhengme. Zhuge was looking at the list in the sky, and my eyebrows gradually furrowed. As the leader of the 6 gates, he is a renowned expert in the martial arts world. The 108th place on the list of people did not catch his eye, but the deceased Qi Wenlu was a disciple of his junior brother Yuan Shisanji, and he couldn't help but ignore it. The wind and rain are about to come. Zhuge Zhengme shook his head and sighed, his expression melancholic. Junior brother's disciple actually died at the Qushui shop, and it was an unknown soldier who killed him. It's troublesome now. Although Zhuge Zhengme and his junior brother Yuan Shisanji are from the same sect, they are not harmonious because they have each defected to their respective masters. He knew that his junior apprentice had a haughty temperament and was always seeking revenge. If a disciple is killed, Yuan 13 limit will definitely not swallow his anger. Chase your life. As soon as he finished speaking, a middle-aged man with a drunken and unkempt demeanor walked in and bowed, saying, "Master." Zhuge looked at the list in the sky and said in a deep voice, "You go to the Qushui shop and check this Lin Jue. Prime Minister's office. The mansion is exquisite and elegant, with a wide range of rockery, pavilions, beautiful scenery, and ponds. By the lake, Prime Minister Cai Jing was sitting in a pavilion drinking tea and sipping tea. The 5 members of Liuhe Qinglong waited on the side, carefully warning the surroundings, like 5 loyal dogs. Suddenly, a person pointed at the sky and exclaimed in surprise, "Look!" The sky was filled with golden light, and everyone couldn't help but look up. Qi Wenlu is dead. Looking at the shining hero list in the sky, Cai Jing frowned and his anger gradually surged. Qi Wenlu was a lackey under his command, and this time he acted under his command. However, he never expected to be beheaded outside the Qushui shop. Bastard! Click. Cai Jing suddenly threw a broken tea bowl with an angry expression. He doesn't care if Qi Wenlu dies, but Lin Jue's actions seem to be hitting Cai Jing's face. He twitched at the corners of his mouth, his beard trembled slightly, and a killing intent filled his heart. Liuhe Qinglong looked at each other with resentment in their eyes. Everyone immediately knelt down and begged, "Sir, we are willing to take action to kill this prison and avenge our 6th brother." Xiangyang City. The great hero Guo Jing was deeply moved when he saw the celestial rankings appearing in this world. When he noticed that the person being killed was actually Qi Wenlu, a disciple of Yuan 13th limit, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Lin Jue. He should be the young leader of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower, how could he be so ignorant of his importance? His expression was somewhat worried. The great hero is concerned about the country and the people. Although he is far away in Xiangyang, he often pays attention to the movements in the Bian capital. After knowing that Su Mengzhen was seriously injured, the struggle between Jinfeng Shiyu Tower and Liufen Bantang became even more intense. Although it was a struggle in the martial arts world, behind it was the influence of the court playing tricks. Jinfeng Shiyu Lu has always been righteous, and Guo Jing also has great respect for its owner Su Mengzhen. Seeing that Lin Jue actually killed Qi Wenlu and made it to the list of people, he should have been happy, but couldn't help but worry. Young people act impulsively, but they don't realize they have caused a big disaster. On the side, Huang Rong, with a beautiful and elegant face, chuckled lightly and said, "Brother Jing, why worry? No one knows that Qi Wenlu is the lackey of the treacherous Prime Minister Cai Jing. It would be even better to kill him." The Mongol Yuan dynasty. Dadu. In a magnificent courtyard, under the bright sunshine, Zhao Min, dressed in white clothes and with a delicate face, was smiling at the sky. She sat by the pool, her skin as pure and white as condensed fat. Her waist, which was tightly grasped, couldn't even conceal her seductive figure with her loose robe. Zhao Min swayed her 2 thin and pure white calves, her white lotus-like feet paddling in the water, feeling very happy. Seeing Qi Wenlu, the lackey under Cai Jing's command, die, she couldn't help but feel a little gloated. After the death of this good dog, Cai Jing doesn't know what kind of anger to turn into. Hee hee. Zhao Min let out a silver bell-like laughter. The Mongol Yuan dynasty and the Song dynasty were adjacent, and frequent wars broke out between the two sides. Cai Jing was the treacherous prime minister of the great Song dynasty. He was originally the one they tried to win over, but Zhao Min just liked to watch them bite their dogs. Zhao Min was very pleased to see Cai Jing suffer this time. She smiled at the corners of her mouth as she watched Lin Jue's name make it onto the list of people. She couldn't help but feel curious and tilted her head, muttering. Who is this Lin Jue? Chapter 9. Mysterious Rewards. Li Shishi's Admiration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the hero list unfolds, Lin Jue's fame spread far and wide, and his name officially appeared in the martial arts world. Not only Bianjing City, but also the entire Song dynasty remembered this name. Who is Lin Jue? Why haven't you heard of him before? I know, he's a hero. Who doesn't know that Qi Wenlu is a traitor and lackey? Whoever killed him is the great hero. Temples, rivers, markets, almost everyone remembers the name of Lin Jue, which can be considered a household name. Although the hero list can only be seen by people in the martial arts world, there are many merchants who print the content of the hero list into books and even sell it specifically based on past records and rankings, so even ordinary people know some of it. In the past, the people were not interested in the change of the hero list, but this time it was the lackeys of the treacherous Prime Minister Cai Jing who died. Lin Jue killed Qi Wenlu, and everyone in the world applauded and regarded him as a hero. Even the common people who weave mats, sell shoes, kill pigs and sell meat have been singing the name of Lin Jue de Song, Bianjing. Outside the bitter water shop, the gang members of the Golden Wind and Fine Rain Tower happily hung Qi Wenlu's body high above the gate tower, and killed all the lackeys brought by Qi Wenlu, hanging them on the side wall for public display. They looked at the list in the sky, with smiles on their faces and excitement on their faces. Although Lin Jue is currently only ranked 108th on the list of people, for them, he is already a towering presence. Among the three lists of heaven, earth, and man, who is not a world-renowned figure who can make it on the list. The people's list records young and outstanding individuals with excellent qualifications, and they may not have the opportunity to climb the earth's list or even the heavens list in the future. The number one on the current heavenly list is the Supreme Master Ling Donglai, who has been trapped in the 10 Extremes Pass and is now nowhere to be found. Also on the list are the Magician Pang Ban, the Western Kunlun Yang Shao, the Rain Sword Wave Flipping Cloud, and the Heavenly Blade Song K. Every one is a world-renowned hero. Those who make it to this list are all unparalleled experts who have reached the realm of great masters, and their martial arts have reached the pinnacle. And the Earth list, also known as the Grandmaster list, all the people on the list are legendary figures who have become famous in the martial arts world for a long time. Ranked first, it's like Li Xuanhuan with the little Li flying knife. In the Ming Dynasty's martial arts world, Li Xuanhuan holds a high position. Even the leader of the money gang who killed Tianji Old Man, Jin Hong, the official of the Dragon and Phoenix double rings, was killed by his sword. Ranking first, truly deserving of the title. And ranked second on the list are Xiaofeng, the sword god who defeated Yen 13 a few months ago. The third is Yigucheng, the lord of Baiyun City, and the fourth is Shimen Chui Xue Kushui Shop, backyard. Congratulations to the host for killing Qi Wenlu and making his debut on the leaderboard. Congratulations to the host for completing a special achievement and receiving the reward. Sky Slaying Sword Technique. Zhan Tian Ba Jian Shu. Lin Jue pondered for a moment and remembered that this heaven-slaying and sword-pulling technique was created by the ghost of a beautiful girl and the 6 demon sovereigns. It was the ultimate killing move of the Yi Moon Emperor. The 7 Knights Demon Lord once used this move to slay the Black Mountain Old Demon with one sword. That's quite good. Lin Jue nodded and was very satisfied with the reward this time. Not long after, the secret script in front of him also turned into a stream of light and penetrated into his heavenly spirit. Lin Jue closed his eyes and practiced, his internal breath becoming more and more intense. Consciously speaking, Lin Jue practiced this swordsmanship in his mind. This technique only has one move, and under one move, it seems to have the power to tilt the sky. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Jue slowly opened his eyes, and two brilliant rays of light shot out of them. Rather than calling it Zhantian pulling sword technique, it can also be called Zhantian pulling blade technique. After countless rehearsals in his heart, Lin Jue has preliminarily mastered this swordsmanship. Although there is only one move, there is almost no upper limit, and as his strength increases, his power can also be continuously enhanced. Not bad. Lin Jue was very satisfied with this technique and immediately got up to the backyard to continue practicing drawing swords. Hoo, the long sword breaks through the air. Under the application of Lin Jue, the technique of breaking the sea blade stirred up gusts of wind, and the fallen leaves in the courtyard also moved with the traction of the blade. Gradually, Lin Jue once again fell into a state of selflessness, tirelessly practicing his sword techniques over and over again. At the northern end of the Imperial Street in Bianjing, there is the Fan Tower. Fanlu, formerly known as Baifanlu, is also the most luxurious brothel in the capital city of Bian. In an elegant room on the third floor, a young woman is dressing up in the mirror. Her stunning face was reflected in the mirror, like the morning dew of crabapple, and her waist and limbs were like willows swaying in the east wind. Although she possesses talent, her fairy-like appearance alone is enough to make countless talented individuals spend a lot of money, with every frown and smile that is enough to leave a lingering impression on their souls. Behind her, a middle-aged but still charming lady named Sun Yang is helping her tidy her hair. "Daughter, you are about to leave the cabinet." "Mom, I have already come up with a comprehensive plan for you." "What is the best solution?" Teacher Li suddenly looked back. The rose-colored mouth under the tall nose was slightly open, like a seductive rose. Her face is delicate and elegant, like a lotus in a cup, with a stunning and captivating aura. Not only men, but even women are bound to feel love and pity upon her. The madam whispered in her ear, "Did you know that a new hero has appeared on the hero list?" Seeing Master Li's confusion at first glance, the madam then smiled and said, "His name is Lin Jue, and he is a young leader who has climbed the Tingyuan list." "Mom, I have already sent someone to send him an invitation. If he comes to attend your graduation party, he will definitely make you famous. If we can invite him to spend a good night with you, your name, Master Li, will surely resound throughout Bianjing and become the leader of the flowers." Upon hearing what the madam said, Li Shishi's pretty face turned slightly red. Although she is a geisha, she has always admired heroes and did not know who the madam was talking about. "You can say Lin Jue's name, and she will understand." Lin Jue killed the henchman of the treacherous Prime Minister Cai Jing, and everyone talked about it on the streets and alleys. At this moment, upon hearing the madam's words, inviting Lin Jue to come knocking on the door, Master Li couldn't help but feel his heart pounding and a bit flustered. "Mom, what if she doesn't come?" Li Shishi's eyebrows furrowed slightly, with two delicate jade hands held in front of her chest. Her worried and panicked expression was extremely moving. The madam lightly tapped her forehead and playfully said, "You girl, you have given birth to such a good skin bag that women love you 3 times. Don't worry, he will definitely come. Mom, I have already sent someone to invite him." On the street, a brothel servant holding an invitation card is running towards the bitter water shop at full speed. Before leaving, the madam had repeatedly reminded her to deliver the invitation as soon as possible, otherwise she would have to be punished. The servant walked extremely fast, but when he arrived at the door of the bitter water shop, he suddenly stopped and hurriedly hid behind the wall, trembling. The streets are full of people, but not ordinary people. Everyone holds swords, exuding a strong aura. Obviously, they are all martial arts people. At this moment, there are countless people in the martial arts world, with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, already filling the streets with water. And all of their eyes seem to turn to the bitter water shop in front of them. Chapter 10. Invitations from Teacher Li, Revenge of Liuhe Qinglong. You are listening at novel full.audio. Bitter water spreads outside. Several groups of people have sealed off the streets to prevent water from flowing out. Judging from their clothing, they are not the same force, but their targets are obviously the suffering shops in front of them. These people, whether wielding swords or wearing swords, all have a hint of killing intent on their bodies, indicating that they are not good people. Where has this brothel servant seen such a scene? Immediately frightened, my legs became weak and I was in a dilemma. Who is this kid? Are you also here to find Lin Jue? The gaze of the crowd suddenly turned to a strong man with a hatchet on his back, and he asked in a jar, "Who are you, kid? What are you doing here?" The sound of a red bell immediately aroused the servant, and he quickly trembled and replied, "Master, spare your life. I am a servant from the Alum Tower. At the command of my young lady, I have come to invite Lin Jue and Lin Daxia to the banquet." "Invite Lin Jue to the banquet." The strong man's beard trembled, and a few teasing flashes flashed in his eyes. A swordsman dressed in black armor next to him chuckled coldly and said, "I'm on the brink of death. How could I still think of going to the brothel to prostitute? Ha ha ha. This is called dying under the peony flower, and being a ghost is also charming. Everyone suddenly burst into laughter. The servant looked puzzled, unable to recognize the identities of these people or understand why they were laughing. The swordsman in black reached out and pointed to 5 fierce and evil Jianghu guests in the distance, saying coldly, "These are Lu Shi, Yan Shi, Gu Taisan, Zhao Huasi, and Yi Qiwu from Liuhe Qinglong. They are the people sent by Kai Xiangcai." Lu Shu and his companions looked at the black-clad swordsman with an unfriendly expression. But the black-clad swordsman seemed to not feel the malice of others, reaching out to another group of officials dressed in tiger robes and flying kites, with swords hanging from their waist. "These are the constables of the 6 gates, and the leader is the 3rd master of the 4 great captors chasing after him." After speaking, the black swordsman pointed at himself and said with a smile on his lips, "And I, on the other hand, was sent by the white vice lord of the golden wind and fine rain tower." This. After listening to the other person's words, the servant's face turned pale with fear, and cold sweat seeped through. When the cool wind blew, his thin body trembled. These people all come from extraordinary backgrounds, and any force behind them is a person who trembles 3 times when stomping their feet in the capital. He, as a young servant in a brothel, is almost overwhelmed by the invisible power just by standing here. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and now he couldn't wait to escape from here. Fortunately, these people did not regard him as an ordinary brothel servant. What the swordsman in black said just now is obviously about listening to others. Suddenly, the door of the Qushui shop was pushed open from inside, and a tall man with a long sword on his waist walked out. He has a resolute face and a burly body, standing there like a fierce tiger, which is not to be underestimated. The gaze of the crowd came instantly. They probably haven't seen Lin Jue, but they only recognized his identity at a glance. In today's Bianjing, there is no one else besides Lin Jue who can have such a oppressive face. Lin Jue stood in front of the door, his deep eyes sweeping towards everyone. Liuhe Qinglong. 6 doors. Jin Feng Shiyu Lu. Lin Jue secretly thought to himself. These people were dressed completely differently, and he recognized everyone's identity at a glance. Lin Jue is also very clear about why these people are looking for him. It's just because he killed Qi Wenlu, causing a stir and alerting these forces. But as his gaze swept over the crowd, it eventually lingered on the servant in the distance. The servant doesn't have any internal strength or aura on him, and he's not even a martial artist. But what other reason could he come here at this time besides looking for him? Looking at Lin Jue's puzzled gaze, the servant bravely took out the invitation from his arms and trembled, saying, "Lin Daxia, I am sent by the Fan Tower to bestow the order on Miss Li, and invite Lin Daxia to attend Miss Li's coming out banquet." Teacher Li. Lin Jue is not unfamiliar with this name. The most talented woman of the great Song dynasty, with excellent looks and skills, even Emperor Huizong of Song, Zhao Ji, threw a lot of money for her, lingering and reluctant to leave. From what this servant means, it seems that Li Shishi doesn't have that much fame yet, and he should be still young. Otherwise, those high-ranking officials and children of aristocratic families who want to see his beauty may have broken through the threshold of the Alam Tower. Lin Jue has been smiling recently, and with a gesture, he took the invitation card from the servant's hand across the air. He also wanted to meet this famous courtesan of the Song dynasty for a while and see what kind of unparalleled beauty she was. Others around saw that Lin Jue was deeply trapped in the siege, and surprisingly, he still had the intention to accept the invitation from the brothel, and suddenly sneered. "I don't know where to die, I'm on the brink of death, and I even want to be that flirtatious ghost." Gu Taisan, the leader of Liuhe Qinglong, unfolded a pair of heavy palm thrusts and directly blocked Lin Jue in front of him. Yen Shirer cannot say much, only listening to a clang, his sword unsheathed. In his hand, he wielded a hateful sword from a flying star, heading straight towards Lin Jue to kill him. What a fast sword! Everyone around couldn't help but secretly sigh when they saw the demeanor of this sword. The Flying Star Transmission Hate Sword is the famous sword of Yen Shirer, wielding it like a flying star cutting through the night sky, extremely swift and fierce. Up to now, countless heroes who possess exceptional martial arts skills have died under his sword. Die. Yen Shir's two eyes reveal a killing intent, her body is like an electric shock, killing in an instant. The other four people of Liuhe Qinglong, who were not far away, had no intention of taking action and watched coldly. In their view, once Yen Shirer was allowed to wield his sword, he would be a dead man. The sword's shadow swayed and arrived in an instant. The distance between the two sides was less than 5 feet, and Lin Jue's hand was calmly placed on the handle of the knife at his waist. Not good. The knife was not unsheathed, but an extremely terrifying aura spread instantly. The Lu script of Liuhe Qinglong suddenly changed its color and threw out the pages in its hand with the method of throwing a large tombstone. The pages of the book were as light as a feather, but under his heavy falling monument, they were like pieces of heavy stone slabs breaking through the air and pressing down. Ah! Gu Taisan waved his frustrated palm, Zhao Huasi showed his blue legs, and Yi Qi hit Lin Jue with 100 flags like a rainstorm meteor in an instant with his 5-hand, flying down, dry ground wind and thunder. The 5 of them are renowned experts in the martial arts world who have been known for a long time. They are quick and resentful in their actions, and among the crowd present, only 2 or 3 of them can clearly see their actions. Even the pursuers of the 4 great captains were looking solemn at this moment. He asked himself that under the joint attack of these 5 people, if he had dealt with it himself, he might have died within 3 moves. As for the black-clad swordsman in the golden wind and fine rain tower, there was a hint of sarcasm in his expression. It seems that he won't be able to make the appointment with this Alam Tower. In the eyes of the swordsman in black, Lin Jue would be a dead person in the next moment. Let's go. The swordsman in black turned around and wanted to leave, but before he could finish speaking, his eyes widened instantly, and the ultimate terror enveloped his heart.